All right, so we're diving into some fascinating stuff today.
Oh, absolutely.
Commercial real estate, but with a twist.
A twist. Okay, I like it.
We're zeroing in on McHenry, Illinois. And our guide for this deep dive, it's Michael Linton, a real veteran in the Chicago real estate world.
Yeah, his insights are always sharp.
Definitely. And he's laid out some of his thoughts on chicagodealflow.com. I mean, 38 years in the game, you know he's seen it all.
Right. You pick up a thing or two in that time.
So what caught your eye in his analysis?
Well, right off the bat, he makes this interesting point about McHenry's location.
Okay, so it's about 50 miles northwest of Chicago, right?
Exactly. But he frames it as the strategic advantage, not just distance.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's he getting at?
It's like, yeah, it's away from the city's hustle and bustle,
Yeah.
but it's still got easy access to all the major transportation routes.
So you're saying it's connected, but with a different vibe.
Exactly. It's close enough to Chicago to tap into that energy. But it also has its own distinct character, that suburban appeal.
That's got to be a draw for certain businesses, right?
For sure, especially with that whole trend of businesses and people moving out of those ultra-urban centers.
Okay, so McHenry's kind of riding that wave.
Absolutely. And Michael points out how that's impacting its growth.
Growth, like in terms of population.
Exactly. More people mean more demand for, well, everything. Housing, retail, you name it.
And that spills over into the commercial real estate market.
Exactly. And that's where things start to get really interesting.
All right, so let's break down those sectors. What's McHenry's retail scene like?
Well, Michael paints this picture of diversity, which I think is key.
Diversity, how so?
It's not just one type of retail dominating the scene. You've got your big box retailers,
Yeah.
but you also have those smaller independent shops that give a place its personality.
Ooh, I like that. A good mix.
Right. He specifically mentions McHenry Commons as a prime example.
Okay, I've heard of that. It's a pretty popular spot, right?
Yeah, it's got this nice blend of national chains and those local businesses. It's like they're coexisting, thriving together.
So it's not just about competing. It's about offering options.
Exactly. And then he talks about this stretch along Route 31.
Route 31, got it.
He describes it as catering to every retail need imaginable.
Like what kind of places are we talking?
Everything from standalone stores to those strip malls.
So if you need something, chances are you can find it there.
Pretty much. And I think that variety is what makes McHenry's retail scene so interesting.
Okay, so McHenry's got that covered. But what about office spaces? Is it all about those massive corporate campuses?
Well, Michael actually points out that McHenry caters to a whole range of businesses.
Okay, so there's something for the smaller players too.
Exactly. He highlights downtown McHenry as this interesting blend of historical and modern office spaces.
I like that. A little bit of old and new.
Right. It's got that character, that walkability that a lot of firms, especially smaller ones, are looking for these days.
It's almost like a small town feel within a larger suburban context.
Exactly. And for those companies that want a bit more of a view, he suggests keeping an eye on Riverside Drive.
Riverside Drive, okay.
Yeah, he sees it as a potential hot spot for office developments.
Now that's intriguing. What's so special about it?
Well, think about it. Offices overlooking the Fox River. Talk about a selling point.
Right, you're talking talent attraction, employee satisfaction, all of that.
Exactly, and it's a detail that Michael picks up on that I thought was really smart.
It's like he's seeing beyond just the bricks and mortar. He's considering the whole experience, the environment.
Yeah, and that's what makes his analysis so insightful.
Okay, so retail and office spaces seem pretty promising in McHenry. But what about the industrial and warehouse sector? It seems like McHenry's well positioned for that too.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with its access to those transportation networks we were talking about earlier.
Right, it's all about logistics these days.
Exactly. And Michael highlights a couple of key areas in his article.
Okay, let's hear them.
He mentions the McHenry Corporate Center.
So that's more for light industrial and warehousing.
Right, think smaller scale operations. And then there's the Route 120 corridor.
Okay, Route 120, got it.
He describes it as this emerging hub for new industrial developments.
Emerging, so there's still room for growth there.
Exactly. And when you think about logistics, manufacturing, distribution, all of that, it seems like McHenry's checking all the boxes.
So we've got retail, office, industrial, but there's one more trend that I'm curious about. Mixed-use developments. They're popping up everywhere, creating these vibrant, walkable communities. Is McHenry embracing that concept?
You know, that's one of the things that stood out to me in Michael's analysis.
Okay, what's he saying?
He actually highlights McHenry's embrace of mixed-use projects. He even mentions downtown redevelopment plans that aim to blend retail, office and residential spaces.
Wow, so they're really going for it.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of what's been happening in other successful Chicago suburbs, places like Libertyville and Lake Zurich.
Where those projects have really taken off.
Exactly.
It's like McHenry's learning from the playbook of its neighbors.
Yeah, and applying those lessons to its own unique context.
Now, every market has its challenges and opportunities, right?
Absolutely, and that's where Michael's expertise really shines.
So he's not just painting a rosy picture. He's getting into the nitty-gritty.
He dives into the trends shaping McHenry's real estate landscape. And that's where things get really interesting. You know, one of the first things Michael tackles is e-commerce.
Yeah, that's the big disruptor these days, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's reshaping everything. But instead of doom and gloom, he highlights how McHenry's retail players are adapting.
Okay, because online shopping isn't going away anytime soon.
Exactly. So it's about finding ways to coexist, to complement each other.
So what's the game plan? Is McHenry shifting gears completely?
Not at all. He talks about this move towards what he calls experiential retail.
Experiential retail. Okay, I'm curious. Break that down for me.
It's about thinking less about buying a product and more about buying an experience. Like places that offer entertainment, unique dining, community events. It's about creating a destination, not just a store.
So it's not just about the transaction, it's about the whole experience.
Exactly. It's about creating a vibe, a reason to be there.
And you can't get that online.
Exactly. And Michael sees this happening in McHenry, with its mix of independent shops and those larger developments that are incorporating that experience factor.
It's like they're creating a draw, a reason to visit.
Right, you're not just competing with products anymore, you're competing with experiences.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's about adapting, evolving.
Exactly, and it's not just limited to retail.
Oh, you're talking about the rise of flex spaces.
Exactly. Michael sees that as a direct response to the evolving needs of businesses.
Especially in the wake of the pandemic, right?
For sure, companies need spaces that can grow or shrink with them, that can be reconfigured for different purposes.
So it's all about agility. Being able to adapt on the fly.
Right. Think movable walls, adaptable layouts, the whole 9 yards.
It's like having a workspace that can transform to meet your needs.
Exactly. And that flexibility is becoming a major selling point.
Now, Michael is big on understanding the community and the trends shaping it. What does he say about McHenry's demographics?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of understanding those demographic trends, not just for McHenry, but for any market you're considering.
Demographics are destiny, right?
Exactly. You need to know who's moving in, who's aging in place, what are their needs, their desires, their spending habits. It's about aligning your investment strategy accordingly.
So what's the demographic picture in McHenry?
Well, that's where things get interesting. Michael suggests that McHenry seems to be attracting a mix of demographics.
A mix, so it's not just one specific group.
Exactly, and that creates a wider range of opportunities.
Okay, I'm listening.
He points out that there's a growing population of young families drawn to McHenry's affordability and that small-town feel.
Right, so there's a family-oriented segment of the market.
Exactly. But at the same time, he also points out that McHenry has a significant retiree population.
So you've got those two ends of the spectrum.
And everything in between. It's a diverse mix, which means diverse opportunities.
That's a great point. So you need to consider the needs of different groups.
Precisely. Are you targeting young families, retirees, or maybe a broader audience? It all ties back to those demographic trends.
Okay, so we've got location, sectors, demographics. But there's another piece of the puzzle that Michael emphasizes. Infrastructure. Why does he make such a big deal about it?
Well, infrastructure investments can really make or break a community, especially one like McHenry that's positioned for growth.
Yeah, it's laying the groundwork for the future.
Exactly. A new highway interchange can open up access. A road widening project can ease traffic congestion. A commuter rail line can connect McHenry to Chicago. These things can be game changers.
So it's about attracting both businesses and residents.
Absolutely. It's about creating that connectivity, that flow.
Okay, so what kind of infrastructure developments is McHenry seeing?
You know, Michael doesn't get into specifics in his article, but he strongly advises investors to do their homework on any planned infrastructure projects.
So it's about looking beyond the current state.
Exactly. Are there road improvements on the horizon? Any talk of expanding public transportation options? These things can significantly impact property values and the overall desirability of an area.
It's like you're investing in what McHenry is poised to become, not just what it is today.
Exactly. And having those insights into infrastructure plans can give you a real edge.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the positives, but let's get real for a moment. What about the risks?
Well, one thing Michael doesn't shy away from is the inherent risk of economic downturns.
Yeah, recessions happen. Nobody's immune to that.
Exactly. And when they do, commercial real estate can definitely feel the impact.
So it's not all sunshine and roses.
Not always, no. Rental rates can drop, vacancies can rise, and suddenly that once promising investment might not look so rosy.
So it's about being realistic, knowing that there will be ups and downs.
Absolutely, and that's why Michael stresses the importance of diversification.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Exactly. Spread your investments across different property types, different markets, maybe even different asset classes altogether.
So it's about building a portfolio that can weather those economic storms.
Exactly.
Now, another risk that comes to mind is oversupply. What if too many developers rush into McHenry?
That's a great point, and it's where that local market knowledge becomes even more crucial.
So it's not just about following the hype, it's about understanding the fundamentals.
Exactly. Michael advises investors to carefully assess the supply and demand dynamics in McHenry.
Okay, so you need to look at what's already there and what's in the pipeline.
Right. Are there a lot of new developments in the works? Is there enough demand to absorb that new space? Or are we potentially heading towards an oversupply situation?
So it's about doing your due diligence, making sure you're not getting caught up in a bubble.
Exactly. You need to look beyond the hype and make informed decisions based on solid data.
All right, so we've talked about the general advice, but let's get into some specifics. What are some of the innovative investment strategies that Michael suggests for McHenry?
Well, one that really caught my eye is what he calls the covered land play.
Covered land play. Okay, I've never heard of that. What's the idea?
It involves purchasing underutilized properties with existing income streams.
So you're not starting from scratch.
Exactly. You're buying a property that's already generating some revenue.
But it's underutilized, so there's room for improvement.
Right. The key here is the potential for future redevelopment.
Can you give us an example of how that might work in McHenry?
Sure. Imagine you find an aging strip mall on Route 31. It's generating some rental income, but it's clearly seen better days.
Okay, so it's not a prime property, but it's got potential.
Exactly. It might not be glamorous, but that existing income stream helps cover your carrying costs.
While you plan for the future, right?
Exactly. And maybe down the line, you redevelop that strip mall into a mixed-use project.
I see where you're going with this.
Retail on the ground floor, apartments or condos above, maybe some green space. You've transformed an underperforming asset into something vibrant and in high demand.
It's like taking something ordinary and turning it into something extraordinary.
And with McHenry's focus on those mixed-use developments, that kind of strategy seems like it could have real legs.
Okay, so you're buying time and options with that covered land play.
Exactly. It's about having that vision, understanding the market trends, and being patient.
Okay, that's an interesting strategy. Now, I know Michael also mentions the possibility of acquiring distressed commercial REOs, those bank-owned properties that often come at a discount. Is that something he recommends for McHenry?
He does mention it, but he's quick to point out that those properties require a different level of due diligence.
So it's not for the faint of heart.
Not exactly, no. You need to be prepared for potential hidden issues. Deferred maintenance, environmental concerns, legal complexities, you name it.
So it's buyer beware.
In a sense, yes. But if you do your homework, assemble the right team of experts, and the numbers make sense. Distressed properties can offer significant returns, especially in a growing market like McHenry.
Okay, so it's about weighing the risks and rewards.
Exactly.
Now, there's one more strategy that Michael touches on that I find intriguing. Adaptive reuse?
Ah, yes, taking those obsolete buildings and giving them a new lease on life.
It's like a second chance for those old structures.
And it's not just about preservation, it's about creativity.
Seeing the potential in something that others might overlook.
Exactly. And you often get these unique spaces with character that you just can't replicate in new construction.
Okay, so what kind of adaptive reuse potential does Michael see in McHenry?
He suggests exploring the possibility of transforming old warehouses near downtown McHenry.
Warehouses, okay.
Yeah, imagine those high ceilings, exposed brick, that industrial chic aesthetic that's so popular these days.
Yeah, I could see that.
You could turn them into trendy office spaces, unique retail destinations, even event venues.
It's like taking something old and industrial and giving it a modern twist.
Exactly. And that's what makes adaptive reuse so exciting. It's about breathing new life into a community while preserving its history.
Okay, so we've covered some pretty innovative investment strategies. But Michael doesn't just leave us hanging. He offers some practical advice for navigating McHenry's market. What are some of his key recommendations?
Well, one of his biggest pieces of advice is to partner with experts. People who truly understand McHenry's unique dynamics.
But don't try to go it alone.
Exactly. Find a seasoned real estate broker, an
Hmm.
attorney who knows the local regulations, a contractor familiar with the area. These are the people who can guide you through the process.
It's like assembling your own dream team of real estate professionals.
Exactly. They're your navigators, your advisors, your problem solvers. And in a market like McHenry, where things are constantly evolving, having that expert guidance can be invaluable.
Okay, so expertise is key. What else does Michael emphasize?
He also stresses the importance of understanding McHenry's zoning regulations.
Zoning. Why is that so crucial?
Because zoning dictates what you can and can't do with a property. It determines things like building height, density, permitted uses, all those factors that can make or break a development project.
So you might have a great idea, but if the zoning doesn't allow it, you're stuck.
Exactly. And Michael points out that McHenry's zoning regulations can be quite different from neighboring towns.
So what flies in one place might not fly in another.
Exactly. You need to do your homework and understand the specific rules of the game.
It's like playing a board game with different rules for each property.
That's a great analogy. And that's why working with a local expert who knows those zoning nuances inside and out is so crucial.
Okay, so zoning is something to watch out for. What other advice does Michael offer?
He also encourages investors to take a comparative approach.
Comparative, what does he mean by that?
He suggests comparing McHenry's market to other Chicago suburbs, places like Elgin or Arlington Heights.
Okay, so it's about seeing how McHenry stacks up against the competition.
Exactly. What are its strengths and weaknesses? Where does it offer a unique advantage? Are there other markets that might be a better fit for your specific investment goals?
It's like doing a side-by-side comparison of different investment options.
Exactly. Maybe find that McHenry's affordability is a major draw. Or perhaps its access to transportation networks gives it an edge. Or maybe you realize that another suburb has a stronger industry cluster that aligns with your interests.
So it's about being strategic, doing your research, and making informed decisions based on a holistic view of the market.
Exactly.
Now, I know Michael ends his article with some thought-provoking questions for investors. What does he challenge them to think about?
He essentially asks readers to put all the pieces together and come up with their own investment thesis for McHenry.
Okay, so he's not giving all the answers. He's prompting them to think for themselves.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of the information, formulating your own strategy, and finding the opportunities that resonate with your vision and goals.
And that's the beauty of real estate investing, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just about numbers and spreadsheets. It's about creativity, vision, and the ability to see the potential in something that others might miss.
And that's where having a deep understanding of the market, the trends shaping it,
Right.
and the strategies for success can make all the difference.
Could have said it better myself.
You know, as we've been talking about McHenry, it's really striking that sense of balance it seems to offer. It's got that closeness to Chicago, that energy, but also a distinct personality. Like it's not just a suburb of Chicago.
Yeah, I totally see that. It's like McHenry is this blend, right? Urban access, but with a suburban charm. And you see that reflected in their commercial real estate, too,
Yeah,
We've talked about retail, office space, industrial, even mixed use. It really seems to have a bit of everything.
exactly. It's not just cookie cutter, same stuff everywhere. And that's pretty cool.
Huh.
What I find interesting is they seem to be open to the new stuff, but still holding on to their core character.
That's one of the big takeaways I got from Michael's take on McHenry. They're not stuck in the past, but they're not just chasing every trend either.
Right.
It's more like they're picking and choosing, being strategic about it, which honestly, in today's world, that's smart.
Got to adapt, right? And speaking of adapting, we can't forget the big one, e-commerce. It's changing retail everywhere. So how is McHenry handling that?
Well, Michael acknowledges the challenges, for sure, but he points out how they're shifting gears. It's not about giving up on physical stores. It's more about rethinking them.
Okay, so what's the approach?
He talks about this move towards what he calls experiential retail, creating those destinations that are about more than just come in, buy stuff, leave.
I like that.
It's about the experience, right?
Oh, I
Like
see.
entertainment, dining, events, stuff you can't get online.
It's giving people what they want, that connection, a reason to actually go out. And those mixed-use developments play into that too, right?
Exactly. It's not just putting different things together in one spot. It's creating that synergy. Live, work, shop, all in one walkable area.
It's like a mini city within a city. Now, we've been pretty positive about McHenry, but what are some of the potential downsides investors should consider?
Well, Michael's pretty upfront about the ups and downs of real estate. No market is immune to the economy, right? So when things slow down, commercial real estate feels it.
Makes sense.
Rents might drop, vacancies go up, property values could dip. It's part of the cycle.
So, got to be realistic. It's a long game, not a quick win.
Absolutely. That's why he's a big advocate for diversification. Don't put everything in one place, spread it out, different property types, different markets even.
Ride out the storm, so to speak.
Exactly. And another thing to be mindful of is oversupply. If everyone jumps on the McHenry bandwagon, you could end up with too much space, not enough demand.
Ah, so it's not just, McHenry's hot, let's all invest. Got to do your research.
Absolutely. That's where really understanding the market is crucial. How much is being built? Is there enough demand to fill it?
Don't get caught up in the hype.
Exactly. Got to look at the data, the fundamentals. Now, as we wrap up, I want to give another shout out to Michael Linton and his website, chicagodealflow.com.
Oh, yeah. Super valuable resource for anyone looking at the Chicago market, honestly.
His insights are spot on, and I highly recommend checking out his full article on McHenry. We couldn't cover everything here, so there's even more to dig into on his site.
And if you're serious about investing in that area, reach out to Michael and his team. They're the experts. Well, this has been a fascinating look at McHenry's commercial real estate.
Definitely.
From its location and the opportunities to all those trends we discussed, it's a market worth watching. Whether you're already an investor or just starting out, I think the insights we've discussed can be really helpful. So, this has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.